Phil Mickelson lost $40 million gambling in 4 years. And if you don't know who this is, it is one of the best golfers ever. So Phil Mickelson suffered a staggering $40 million gambling loss between 2010 and 2014, according to his biographer. Alan Shipnuck, a former golf reporter for Sports Illustrated, has a Mickelson biography entitled Phil, the Rip Roaring and Unauthorized Biography of Golf's Most Colorful Superstar, which is coming out later this month. In a book excerpt published on the Fire Pit Collective website, Shipnuck cites documents that were compiled when government auditors conducted a forensic analysis of Mickelson's finances during the time he was embroiled in an insider trading case involving famed professional gambler Billy Walters. In the case, Mickelson wasn't accused of wrongdoing, but was ordered to pay back about $1 million in stock gains based on his tip from Walters, who is fined $10 million and sentenced to 5 years in prison. And apparently that's Walters. While Mickelson was making $40 million per year during those years of gambling losses, which occurred around the peak of his career, Shipnuck did some back of the envelope math to conclude that the habit might have cost him all or most of his money once his costs were accounted for. In those prime earning years, his income was estimated to be just north of $40 million a year, Shipnuck wrote. That's an obscene amount of money, but once he paid his taxes, including the California tariffs he publicly railed against, he was left with what? Low 20s? Then he had to cover his plane and mansions, plus his agent, caddy, pilot, chef, personal trainer, swing coaches, and sundry others. Throw in all the other expenses of a big life, like an actual T-Rex skull for a birthday present, and that leaves what? $10 million per the government audit. That's roughly how much Mickelson averaged in annual gambling losses. And we don't know what we don't know. In other words, it's quite possible he was barely breaking even, or maybe even in the red, and Mickelson's income dropped considerably during his winless years from 2014 to 2017. Shipnuck points out that disputes over hundreds of thousands of dollars in back pay were at the heart of Mickelson's split from longtime caddy Jim Bones McKay in 2017, and poses that the real motivation behind Mickelson's exuberance over the Saudi Golf League was the funny money. The upstart league was offering golfers to defect from the PGA Tour, potentially due to depleted finances from Mickelson's gambling losses. The Saudi Golf League, backed by the Saudi government and fronted by Greg Norman, has promised players massive money and guaranteed appearance fees for fewer tournaments than they play on the PGA Tour. However, the PGA Tour has threatened to ban any player who participates in the upstart, making the prospect of double dipping very risky. It was Shipnuck to whom Mickelson made the comments downplaying human rights concerns about Saudi Arabia, a week after he raked the PGA Tour over the coals for having obnoxious greed and not properly innovating with their media coverage. Mickelson has, by and large, disappeared since the controversy, and it remains unclear as to whether he will defend his improbable 2021 PGA Championship at the major later this month. And here's the thing, right? Like, this is why you have to be so careful when it comes down to something like gambling. Gambling is an addiction, okay? It is a drug, okay? the amount of dopamine that hits your brain, like the amount of excitement that you get for having that like random win that you end up getting is immense, right? This is why you see a lot of like retirees in Las Vegas literally betting their whole paycheck, like their whole social security paycheck at like the slots, right? Or playing baccarat or blackjack. But it was also even crazier. Let's take, for example, something that's even more insane in terms of like gambling, the lottery, right? The lottery is basically the largest scam pretty much in the world, backed by the government, where it is a massive tax on the poor because you have so many people wanting to make it big with very little effort. And you have people who their sole source of income is Social Security, and they bet their whole paycheck every single month on scratch offs. That is a real thing. I've literally seen people actually do that. Literally using their full Social Security check, cashing it out at the local grocery store, and then betting every single dime of it on scratch off lottery tickets. And here's the thing, gambling is addictive in every single income level, okay? This is why you could have someone like Phil Mickelson who has made millions upon millions of dollars. I'm talking like nine figures. And yet could lose everything because he's addicted to gambling, okay? Because this is the problem. The biggest problem with gambling is that you always think you can always win it big because you've probably won money at least once gambling, right? So you probably gambled, and even if you lost 1 out of 10 times, like if you won 1 out of 10 times, that one time that you won made you feel so good, and it gave you the false sensation or false belief that, like, you know what? I can win. I'm totally lucky enough to win when everything's just purely like an odds thing, and the odds are never in your favor. So it's really sad to see because you don't want to see someone who worked extremely hard, right? Trained themselves so well to the point that they are actually capable of making like nine figures in their career, all for it to basically be destroyed by their financial choices like gambling and also taxes on top of that, right? Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, the amount of financial destruction that someone could do to themselves, regardless of their income level, regardless of how much money they have in the bank account, by gambling, is just insane, right? And here's the thing, if you are going to gamble, which I don't recommend anyone gambling, but if you are going to gamble, only use money that you are 100% okay with literally losing that money. So let's just say that you have an excess of $100 after all of your expenses, after all of your taxes, after all of your everything that costs you to actually like live and take care of your future and also your general wants. If you have an extra $100 after everything's said and done, that excess $100, you could use that full excess of $100 to gamble. As long as you understand that you are basically going to lose every single dime of that. And if you're okay with that, go ahead. The only thing is, you have to be okay with understanding that whatever money you use to gamble, you are preparing yourself already that you're going to lose every single cent of it. And that's something that you really got to be aware of. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money, go to 40inbox.com.